I just want to let you guys know we just had another presenter just finish up. So we have, I gave them until 10:15 to take a little break. So they're getting coffee, snacks, everything else. So we are here, but everyone will be back at 10:15.
Sounds perfect.
Perfect time for a coffee break.
Yes. Speaking of which, I'm going to go refill mine, so I will be right back too.
Perfect. Morning, Erin. I got your email, so thank you.
Oh, yeah. Good morning, everyone.
Everyone will be back at 10:15. I just gave them a quick break.
Perfect.
And just so you are aware, I forgot to tell my last presenter this, but I am recording this session just because we do have a couple of people who are not able to attend, and I wanted to make sure that they got all the information that they needed.
Perfect. Yeah, I was going to ask that we do so since the well water training might be useful for the other people who these counselors train and work with. I've been having internet issues for a while, so if it gets glitchy, just tell me and I'll turn my camera off.
Right. Is anybody back? Anyone have a camera they want to turn on? Maybe show us your faces. Show us a sign. Are you there? Is anybody there?
Ed,
I'd be
Okay, we'll
here.
give them another minute to see. Okay, I see one person gave me a thumbs up. So we have one person back. We have our intern back.
I'm back, Sam, but I'm on the call. Sorry.
Oh, okay,
I'm here.
perfect.
I'm just frantically typing a note. This is Anna.
Okay. Okay, great. I think everybody's here. So local agency nutrition coordinators and directors and our intern, we have our well water testing team here. We're collaboratively working with them to be able to distribute well water tests to participants in Maine. And we have met with them before, and we have a couple of new faces today with us. So I'm going to turn it over to Erin, if you want to go ahead and take it away. And local agencies, if any questions come up, very interactive. So turn your cameras on, unmute yourselves, pop messages into the chat, whatever you need to do. But I'm going to hand it over to you guys now.
Perfect. I'll go ahead and share my screen just so we have an agenda to work off of. So I'm Erin Arneson. I think we were here a couple months ago. Rebecca Lincoln is the other person that I work with at Maine CDC, and we're kind of just coordinating this free well water testing project for the WIC clients. So today I think we're just going to maybe do a brief overview to kind of get on the same page in case some people missed the last call. And then we have our folks from the Health and Environmental Testing Laboratory, HETL, here, who will give us a training on well water testing. We'll also just watch a video as an introduction to that, and then we'll move on to just brief changes to the protocol that we looked at last time and next steps. So for the overview portion, I think just big picture, when people come for their annual recertification or an intake, they will be prompted a series of questions to identify if they're on well water, if they want to participate in this project, and then at that point you'd hand them a test kit if you're in person, or you'd fill out a form online to get them connected to HETL, mailing them a test kit to their home. Then the people will test their well water, send it back to the lab will analyze it, the lab will send the results to the families as well as to us at Maine CDC. And if there are unsafe levels of anything, we at Maine CDC will proactively call those families, discuss kind of what their results mean. And then we'll also send them a referral to Maine Housing, who can help them with any financial needs for installing a treatment system. So those are kind of the big steps of it all. And we have a training document that we've shared with you and we'll continue to improve. But I think for today, the focus is just kind of train the trainer in terms of the well water testing, so that when you all are working with families, you know the ins and outs of well water testing. And so that's kind of the look for today. Any questions at this point? Okay, and I'm actually going to re-share my screen because I forgot to share the sound, a feature I recently learned about. So this is our well water testing, where Rebecca Lincoln, who's also involved in this project at Maine CDC, kind of explains high level the well water testing steps, and it's on our website. I think we'll also put it on WIC's website. HETL has it on theirs, and we have DVDs of it. So it just goes over the basics, and then we'll have HETL kind of introduce themselves and go over it more in detail. So I'm going to play it, and if I can just get a thumbs up from you, Sam, if you can hear it.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Lincoln from the Maine CDC. It's great that you're testing your well water, because many wells in Maine have unhealthy amounts of arsenic or other chemicals, but the only way to know if your water is safe is to test it. This video will show you how to test your water, but be sure to carefully follow the directions that come with your kit, as it may be slightly different. I'll be using a test kit similar to one you could order from any lab certified to test private well water in Maine. I'll be testing this water for harmful bacteria and several other things, including arsenic, uranium, and fluoride. We recommend you get a test like this every 3 to 5 years, and a basic test for bacteria, nitrates, and nitrites every year. Let's get started. It's best to test the water at your kitchen sink because this will tell you what's in the water you're using for drinking and cooking. The first thing to do is remove any kind of strainer or aerator on the faucet. If you are testing for bacteria, it's also a good idea to disinfect your faucet by dipping it in some rubbing alcohol or bleach. Then, turn on the water so that the stream is about the thickness of your finger and let it run gently for 5 minutes to flush the pipes. While the water runs, wash your hands. Then, put a clean paper towel on the counter and set the bottles by the sink. You may notice that some of the bottles have a little powder or moisture in them. It's supposed to be there. What's important is that you don't rinse any of the bottles. It's important not to touch the insides of the caps or the bottles. If you have trouble holding the cap while you fill the bottle, set it rim down on the clean paper towel. When the water has run for 5 minutes, you can fill the bottles without changing the flow. Fill each bottle as much as it says in the directions, but don't let the water overflow the bottle. This test kit says to fill the bottles to the shoulder. The shoulder is the part of the bottle below the neck where the plastic begins to bend in. All the bottles go back in the box they came in. Before you seal up the box, fill out the form that came with your test. It's very important that you write down the date and time you filled the bottles. The lab will probably want to know where you collected the water, what type of well you have, and if any chlorine treatment is being used in the water. Put the form back in the box with the bottles, seal the box, and take the bottles to the lab or follow the mailing instructions. When you get the results from your test, call us if you don't understand them. We have experts who can explain any problems with your water and what to do next. It's also a good idea to test for radon and lead in your water every 3 to 5 years. These require 2 different tests, so follow the instructions that come with those test kits carefully. Feel free to call our experts to figure out when and what to test for and to get a list of certified labs. It's great that you're testing your water. Testing is the only way to find out if your water is safe to drink.
Okay, so that's the video that we have that you all can share when you're training people how to do the testing. But now I think any questions about kind of how that video will be used and the information Rebecca talked about, and feel free to chat or come off mute. Okay, well then I'm going to pass it over to the lab to introduce yourselves and kind of go into more of the nitty-gritty parts of what this project will entail. And Mackenzie, I'll start with you.
Yeah. I'm Mackenzie Lee. I'm the inorganic section supervisor at the Health and Environmental Testing Lab. I'll be going through, I've made sort of an annotated chain of custody, that paperwork that the client will fill out with their water samples. So I'll walk through some of the more important parts that we commonly see missed when we have waters sent back to us, and it just helps make everything streamlined. So that's what I'll focus on today. Why don't my coworkers, you guys can introduce yourselves too.
Ed, go ahead.
My name's Ed Adams. I'm the Organic and Environmental Metals Supervisor here at the HETL. And we're looking forward to being able to provide the support on the tests that look for the arsenic and the uranium and things like that occur in my group. We've also, for this particular project, we're also going to be including analyses for manganese and iron and copper. And the reason is that should somebody get a positive result for something like arsenic, a water treatment facility would want to, a professional would want to know what those levels are, because that can dictate what kind of filter media you would use to make the water safe to drink. And so we're going to get those results all together, all at the same time, to try and make it easier for the clients. Joe?
Thank you, Ed. Good morning, everybody. Joe Niskach. I am the shipping and receiving supervisor here at the Health and Environmental Lab, and I will be overseeing getting these kits prepared and mailed out or dropped off to each of the 15 locations here.
Awesome. I think I'm going to try to share my screen just so we can see a close-up of what that chain of custody looks like.
And just for background, I think that we talked about last time that the chain of custody, if you all are meeting with people in the office, it'd be great if you could just take that form out of the box if you're going to hand it to them and fill out the majority of it in person while you're with them. You wouldn't fill out the time and the date collected or the signature, but just if you could help them get the rest of it filled out so that we can make sure we get these things that Mackenzie's going to highlight.
Can you guys see that chain of custody?
Yeah, if you could just zoom in 1 or 2 notches, that'd be helpful.
Yeah, let me try to do that. So this is that front page. On the back of the page, you'll also have the instructions for determining what is the best time to collect your sample based on how you're delivering it to the lab or your appointment. Also, it breaks down collecting your sample, so it also emphasizes what was talked in that video about, and then it also goes into the detail for returning your sample. So that's all on the back of the chain of custody paperwork. On the front part of it, we have the part that would be helpful to probably fill out ahead of time would be the contact information. We want to emphasize having the phone number and email presented very legibly, because if there's any trouble with the sample once we get it at the lab, either receiving it outside of temperature or if we have trouble during analysis, that is the contact information that we use to try to get a replacement sample. The top part of the chain of custody is just for our internal use, so I just emphasize that so they don't have to worry about that. And then the other part that I wanted to make sure that we emphasized was the date of collection and the time it was collected. We get test kits where that part is missed out, and that it makes a difference. We have to track that information down, and with hundreds and hundreds of samples coming through Joe's team's doors, we just want to try to get all of that filled out as efficiently as possible. And I think walking your clients through this form before they take it home would be the most helpful. So you guys can add notes to these, but I think just doing a complete walkthrough would be important. You have, like the video talked about, the test address in the city and the zip code, whether or not there's chlorine treatment being used in the last 6 months. And there is a part for unknown because some people have no idea, which is also an option. Where they collected the water, so kitchen or outside. We recommend that kitchen, like the video talked about. And then the source, if they know the source of that. I think we're just gonna, this is just, I'm not sure if we're gonna actually use this bottom part at all. I think we are gonna have a blanket statement to accept the criteria for testing if the samples are received just outside of the windows. I think we talked about that yesterday. You guys can clarify that if you need to. And then just the back, I just emphasized on the back because the video talked about most of this, and then Joe will cover the shipping details. When they receive their kit, it's really important that all of the bottles are filled with water to the level that they are asking for, because each of those bottles go for a different test. So for example, the bacteria bottle is completely used up during the bacteria testing, so it can't be used for both nitrite testing and bacteria. That's why we have those separate individual containers. And then it just has the directions for returning the sample. So if you guys just walk them through this, I think it should help try to catch any of those missed spots before they're a problem. Do you guys have any questions on the chain of custody? I don't actually know how to unshare my screen.
Should be a little.
Yeah.
I actually a question. I know that this is going to come up, and I don't know if she's by her computer right now, but will this chain of custody form, do you have it in other languages?
We don't yet, but I think we talked about that with Ginger on the last call, and I think that we were going to work on getting it translated beforehand to the several that you always have.
And then the other question was, I don't think this was my first time seeing that form, but it just popped out to me now. It asked what type of well that you have. If a participant does not know that information, that they just know that they have a well, is it going to make a difference?
We've gotten responses where the client's left it blank, and so yeah, it's really up to the client to provide that information. If they choose not to, then I don't think it makes a huge deal, basically. So it's just the more knowledge, the better it is, basically. So
it particularly influences follow-up discussions with a client if they do get positive results for something, because then you can be a little clearer on what you would be recommending.
Great. Thank you. Does any local agencies have questions before we move on?
And in case it was missed in the chat, these test kits will come with a prepaid self-addressed label that they will add to the box when they're sending it back through the post office.
The other thing I think I want to emphasize is that when you're working with a client and there's the particular caseworker that's working with them, to identify that folder number. That's a number they want to keep aside. They want to make sure that they remember that, because really, if they do get a positive result and they call us, that's the magic number that gets us conversant very quickly. And we can at least provide some guidance if they have that number handy, as opposed to us trying to track down which one of the samples was theirs. So that. I think Mackenzie had a big arrow pointing to it. It is an important thing for them to jot down somewhere and keep, even if they, when they're during their visit, even making it part of their file.
Mm-hmm. I think Joe is going to work on trying to have like an individual insert paper that has that, so it's separate from the chain of custody. I think that's our plan moving forward for those, so that it's really easy. You don't even have to like write it down. It's just a separate piece of paper that they can keep with that number right next to their kids' drawings on the fridge.
Yeah, what they were alluding to was this piece of paper here.
Yeah,
we've
you,
updated
Joe.
the chain of custody form, just like Mackenzie showed us earlier. And then we started with this arrow, because this is where we place the sticker, which you can actually see right there, if I could get it closer. So that's that particular folder number right there. But like Ed and Mackenzie were referring to, we were working on getting a separate insert with a separate label just for that insert that the client would be able to keep for their records, as opposed to having to make a photocopy or jot the number down and again lose it on their fridge next to their kids' photos. So yeah, so that will, by the time we get this rolling, I think we should have that up and running as well too. So
Right. Okay, Joe, you want to walk us through anything regarding the shipping and handling?
Sure. And so I brought with me today an example of a kit that we currently use. So if right now this is the FHA residential sales home testing kit. It comes in a box just like this here, and kind of what it looks like when the client gets it is comes with a couple ice packs and then the 5 bottles here. Bacteria bottle, color bottle, metals bottle, turbidity bottle, and nitrate, along with some of the other anions as well too. And all the metals that Ed mentioned earlier as well too there. So that's what it looks like when it comes here. We are talking about upgrading our boxes due to the temperature issues that we're having. So we're thinking about going to a 8x8 box, kind of like this, with a insulated liner and 1 or 2 ice packs on the inside as well too. We found that does a lot better job than just these little cold packs here. So we're in the midst of transitioning to that for this testing kit, and it seems to be working excellent in regards to getting the samples back, obviously within a timely manner, but the temperatures have been within the range that is acceptable for the testing that we're doing here. So I want to say we're, probably 95% 2 thumbs up in regards to that. So yeah, so basically the plan is to once this gets finalized here, we would have 50 kits built for each 15 locations. That would be 750 kits total. Obviously not something that we could do overnight, but maybe 1 to 2 weeks or so that we would have that completed, and either mailed out to you guys or picked up or delivered, or whatever we agree upon here. Once those are done, and I think Mackenzie and Ed did a great job of explaining the first portion of this here. I just want to go over the shipping part. What the best, and I kind of like to say the post office unfortunately has 1 or 2 bad days a month where a truck breaks down, drivers call out, so on and so forth, and some of the packages that we should have got on a Friday morning don't see us until Monday morning sometimes, or vice versa, where they mail it out on a Monday, we won't get it until Wednesday, which is obviously over the 30-hour or 48-hour hold time. So what we've been telling our clients, for the most part, the best luck that we've had if the client has to mail this to us, is to take the sample a little bit later in the day. So I would say perfect timing would be anywhere from 12:30 to about 2:30, 3 o'clock p.m. And then obviously having those ice packs frozen already from the night before, taking the sample within that time frame, and getting it packaged up afterwards, just like the video showed, and then getting it straight to the post office. And that should ensure that it gets to us pretty much by the next day or the next afternoon. We receive mail twice a day here, 8:30 in the morning and then just about 11:30 to noontime. So that 24-hour period, in regards to the temperature, like, unfortunately some people, don't freeze the ice packs fully, or the mail just happens to be, 375 degrees in the back of the truck, and it just happens to sit there an extra few hours. Like I said, that's unfortunately, that's beyond our control. But if it's within that time frame, that sample is still considered good. So that's the one thing I would say, just to stress to the clients here, would be to take the sample, midday or so, and then get it to the post office for that last 1 or 2 mailing trucks for the day for their towns. In regards to the chain of custody as well, we have the inserts that we talked about. And I believe in the video showed as well, it comes with a mailing label. So there'll be 2 mailing labels. There'll be the free mailer, which is just a generic business reply, no charge mailer. And then there's that's pink and green. I had to double check. It looks different on my screen. It was the pink and green mailer. So this notifies all post office to make sure that if they see this from their post office, this goes straight to Augusta then, and not to, Bangor, then Ellsworth, then Fort Kent, then maybe Milwaukee, and then back to Augusta. This comes from their town straight to Augusta, and that should hopefully do the trick here. So unfortunately, sometimes people do forget to put those on, and yes, we do see things, sometimes 3-4 days later. So, but everything is included, just like Mackenzie and Ed showed earlier. Everything is included in the instructions. And also our phone number is on this chain of custody form if the clients had any questions in regards to, how to get it back to us here properly. We obviously be more than happy to answer those for them as well. So.
And so just to kind of provide a little bit more context, those bacteria and nitrate samples that was shown in the video as something to do every year, those have to be analyzed at a cold temperature, and they have to be back at the lab within 24 hours. And so that's why it's really important that people are taking the sample and then going straight to the lab. They're not taking the sample, driving around with it for a couple of days and then dropping it off at the post office. And the other point I think that we wanted to emphasize is that it's really the post office putting it in a blue box or something is just going to add further delays to the lab getting it. And so for those 2 tests to be analyzed properly, they have to be having that cold pack and also received by the lab within 24 hours. And we realize that can be a big barrier for people who may not have transportation, or the post office is forever away, or they work and they can't do this during their lunch break. So if they don't happen to get it back at those times, that's the blanket statement that Mackenzie was referencing, we will still analyze, or HETL will still analyze for the rest of the contaminants like arsenic that we were talking about. So that's just kind of the background for why the timing is so important. But if they happen to miss it, it's still worth sending the box back in.
I know you had said that you bring it right to the post office, but I know that you had also mentioned you said getting it to the lab. Could they just, there are locations that if they were in the area, they could just go deliver it directly to a location?
I think
That
just
is
the
correct.
lab.
So yeah, just the lab at 221 State Street, 221 State Street, right across from the Capitol building here in Augusta. So that is our only location. It's definitely encouraged to do so if they are in a position to, or if they are, close by, maybe a 20-minute drive, half-hour drive. That's obviously their best chance of getting, 100% accurate results. We are open Monday through Friday from 7:30 till 5 p.m. And I believe the only thing that we ask is that they get the samples to us roughly, just before 3:30 to 4 p.m. Because there is a little bit of time that it takes to initiate the sample analysis. And obviously, we kind of don't want all the staff to have to stay, until 8 o'clock at night. So they all can't be like me. So, but yes, now that is definitely encouraged here. And we will also be including in the switch to these new boxes as well. We're going to be including stickers on the inside of the box because only 3 of the bottles. Sorry, the light is on a timer here. Only 3 of the bottles require temperature preservation, so the bacteria and the metals bottle do not have to be inside that cooler with the ice packs. So we will include that sticker as well too. That and obviously it'll come that way. So we'll include a sticker that will be put on the insulated liner to let them know that yes, keep these particular bottles with this ice pack and frozen there. So. And the nitrates, actually the nitrates require, it's a 48-hour hold time, but as long as it's within temperature, within 24 hours, the sample is still good to go. So even if it comes, like say the sample is 15 degrees, that's obviously below the 6-degree Celsius mark. If we receive it within the first 24 hours, that is still a good sample. So it's after that 24-hour mark that it has to be within that temperature preservation of 6 degrees or less, but not frozen.
And some of this is laid out on the second page of that chain of custody that Mackenzie was showing us, and we're working on making that really explicit too for these clients, so it's really clear what these times and bottles and temperatures guidelines are.
Right.
Does anybody have any questions yet? It's a lot of information, I know, but it will be in writing.
Well, I had a question for kind of the group, and how many people do you guys think it'll have difficulty getting it to the post office within, a couple of hours of taking it? I'm just curious what the client base that you have is. Anyone wants to jump in? Quite a bit, yeah.
Yes, I think that'll be a
And what is the biggest barrier when you think of those people that are having issues getting it there that quickly?
transportation, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
I do have a question.
Mm-hmm.
If they could put those boxes in their mailbox with a flag up, that would be helpful, but then that delays the time, of course, but.
Right. And also, if we are going to be going to those, the bigger 8x8 boxes as opposed to just our normal, number 4, number 5 box here, this obviously could pretty much fit into a standard mailbox. The larger boxes, Unfortunately, I don't believe they would fit into a majority of people's mailboxes. So that's the only downside to that. It would give more protection for the sample. However, yes, when it comes to that, it wouldn't work out very well, I don't think.
And Joe, even if it were the smaller box, does it often get to you all in time if they put it in their own mailbox with the flag up, or is that kind of when things start going too long?
Yeah, I want to say that could be when things start to get too long because I'm on a dirt road, 2 mile dirt road, and I definitely leave some bills in the mailbox with the flag up there, and I want them to take as much time as they can to get those bills out. Not the case for the water samples, at least here, so that driver will pick up the water sample that was taken that morning. And by the time it gets to the truck, there's no promise that it'll get to the truck outgoing to Augusta that day. I know my post office closes at 2 p.m. every day, and that mail truck sometimes they finish their route at 3 or 4. So there's no other truck that's going out for the end of the day. So that's 1 day lost there. The next morning it will go out. That's 2 days. So it's about 3 days at that point there that it would take for it to go out, as opposed to if they were delivered to the post office that day, it would leave with that truck that day and then most likely get to us by the next day. So, yeah.
It would be the same in my area, Joe.
Yeah.
And a lot of times our local postal person who would get something from a flag post box would never make it back to the post office itself for the main truck. That adds the day.
Right.
Yeah, and I see the comment about kids at home and daycare or options for someone to watch it is also a barrier. And we have seen this in, past groups who have tried projects like this, that transportation and all of these are big inhibitors to getting the tests analyzed accurately. We still want to proceed, and so that's why we're curious if there are solutions that you all can think of that would make this easier outside of just education, which we can do to death, but still might not solve some of these problems.
Right.
But would listen to you all if you say that this is something that your clients most likely cannot overcome. And yeah, so we're just interested in hearing that.
And just to emphasize that a comment you made earlier, Aaron, is that even if it comes late, at least the metal tests can be done. We're going to be able to give you the information about your arsenic or uranium because the hold times for that particular test are much more generous.
So something that we had discussed, local agencies letting you know something that we had discussed while we were talking about this whole process was the tests are going to the main sites, the sites that are open most days of the week. And then you have your outreach sites that are open on specific days of the week. And one thing that we were thinking, either specific days of the week or maybe one time per month or maybe once every 3 months or however your clinics are set up. One thing that we were thinking is when I know some of your local agencies have your admin call and do appointment reminders prior to the appointments. But maybe calling beforehand, like if you're going to your site that you go to once every other month, calling a week before and saying, hey, you're in for a certification. Are you on well water? Would you like a test? And then getting them the test kit before you go out to their location, and then having them bring everything to their appointment. And then just on your way home, if post office in some of these rural areas, like I said, are not always open in normal business hours. But taking that barrier away for some of your outreach sites, or even at your regular clinics, just sending it out to them before, and then having them bring back the test kit to you, and then being able to have somebody drop it off at the post office for them. And I don't know, in my mind, that seems like a really good idea, but I'm also not working with participants every single day. So any other suggestions or anything that you guys have, please feel free to speak up.
Well, as that's kind of being pondered, I just figured it'd be helpful if I shared kind of why we're talking about these and why it's so important. So this is what will come in your training manual, but it just kind of breaks down what you're testing for, the health impacts, and then what levels to look for. So for the bacteria, a lot of gastrointestinal illness can come from this. And for infants and children, that can cause some serious illness and sometimes some other infectious diseases that they could possibly die from. And for nitrates, this can cause spontaneous abortion or blue baby syndrome, and especially for infants that are bottle fed. This is a huge concern. So these two ones are part of that group that has to be returned quickly and in temperature. And they're also part of the group of things that we're testing for that have more immediate health impacts. Whereas these other ones of arsenic, uranium, fluoride are kind of longer term impacts. So I guess this just maybe is important to call out when you're talking with them why it's important, but not in a way that if they can't do it, then they're just terrified that they can't get the test back and now they'll never know. So just more for background of why we care about these ones.
I do also want to just put a little reminder in for our agencies that it's not required for a person to take a test just because they have well water. It is an option for them. And
yep, everyone.
I got distracted by the chat.
It's for all of the WIC clients currently, is the free well water testing. We'll be working on later projects for everyone in the state who is maybe not on WIC, but also low income, but that's not put together yet.
How much would a test be if somebody didn't qualify for WIC and they had to pay for it out of pocket? Just out of curiosity to see how much they'd be saving.
This particular test here, the FHA residential sales or the well evaluation, those go for $125. And if they wanted, if they want a lower test, like we have the basic safety test, that's just the bacteria and the nitrate tests and the anions. That one's $40, and just the bacteria solo by itself is $35.
In the brochure that we looked at the last time that we joined you in the call, we make sure to call that out on the front page just so people might more understand the value of participating in the project outside of the health benefits from understanding what's in your water. Well, I'll put my email address in the chat before we end the conversation in case you think of anything else, but we'll also continue exploring literature and other projects and finding ways that we can overcome these barriers, because we really just want to find out as much as we can about what's in people's well water so that we can protect them. And if it's, missing out on a few things in order to get the rest of them analyzed, or if it's putting it in their own mailbox, things like that, we do want to find solutions.
Thank you.
I was just going to review a few other things that we changed in the protocol, but wanted to give the lab a chance if they wanted to duck out and not hear about it.
Thanks everybody for that time. So yeah, if they have any other questions, just please let us know for sure. So
thank you.
Thank you guys.
Take care, guys.
All right, so this is just the kind of rough and ugly version of the training guide that we'll provide to you all. Just walks through the enrollment process, what happens with the processing, reminder systems, and some resources that we have. But I just wanted to highlight again that this will be in spirit, and I'll have a series of different questions that will be asked. First, it'll screen out people to make sure that they're on a well, ask if they've tested in the last 5 years. We want to find out if they rent so that we can just better understand if their landlord may have already tested, as that's a requirement of the landlord to undertake, and then just have a conversation with the clients in case any issues are raised between the landlord and the tenant about the landlord being mad that the tenant is testing. So just bringing that up as something to consider with the clients. And then the thing we changed based on this kind of new 24-hour and cold return of the samples is that we just added some language in here about if they want the test kit to just have that conversation early on about that they'll have to, test it and then take it to the post office directly, that they have to keep the ice packs. So having that conversation and then asking a new question about do they feel confident or do they have a way to proceed forward with this testing, so that they can say, yes, I want a test kit, but no, I can't overcome these barriers and I don't want to actually proceed forward with this project. Or that can be a place to brainstorm solutions. So we added some points here about if it's helpful to together look up where the post office is, what the hours are, kind of looking through holidays that are coming up or Fridays that are coming up to avoid and maybe picking a day. So just maybe doing some planning together could help the client. Again, I understand that transportation and kids and all of that can't necessarily be overcome with planning. But we just added this question so that we could give people a chance to kind of opt back out if they don't feel that they're capable of doing it, in which case we could just indicate in spirit that education was provided at that point. But we could also then use that data to better plan on our side to maybe see if public health nursing would be able to be involved to go to people's houses and do the testing for them. So we do want to capture if people want to, but don't feel that they can, so that we can work on finding different solutions on our end. So that's one of the bigger changes. And then we also had put together this survey for people so that when you're either providing them a kit in person or if you're asking HETL to mail them one, this is the survey that you will fill out. And we just added some language here, which is probably illegible right now, but it just explains that participating in this project means that we, Maine CDC, will share their information with the Health and Environmental Testing Laboratory so that they can get the kit, but we'll also share their information with Maine Housing if they have unsafe levels of something, so that they can just kind of get directly involved in getting funding for their treatment system, just to remove the extra, okay, now you guys should call Maine Housing. We'll just take that out of the equation and say, okay, Maine Housing is going to call you all to get you connected, so that that's not kind of on the client's end to take care of getting the treatment system set up. So those were some of the new things that we have. And then this is the instructions that HETL had shown you, which is all very valuable information, but also all bolded, and it's just all exciting. And so we're just made this a little bit more of a friendly document with some more graphic design elements, which I had hoped to share with you today, but the program I created it in, their website is down. So it is lost for now, but will be found and shared. So we will make this whole process a little bit more easy to run through with clients and then when they're at home, as well as some of this information here, just kind of cleaning it up to make it easier to follow. So those are some things that will come soon, again, with the translations. And let me just make sure I got covered everything on the agenda. So next steps from here, the lab, yes, sorry. Probably should finish talking before I read a comment. So this is the last time that I saw the Spirit screenshot, but there may have been some changes just to add some additional. No, it's all good.
That's it. Yep. It's just that one drop down. And when this does roll out, it will prompt the CPA or whoever to fill this question out. It will become a mandatory one, so it will pop up with that obnoxious thing that says like, bing, you can't move on or whatever. So this will be the only mandatory change in Spirit, and it's just a screening question that will be added to new certs and recerts only.
Yep. So for next steps, it was just going to be that HETL is in the process of having their lab moved to a new building. And that unfortunately continues to get pushed back, and with, constant delays of moves, that causes just general frustration. So on the staff side, so we're just trying to be respectful of that and make sure that we don't try and kick off this program while they're in the middle of handling their move. So once they are moved, they'll need just a couple of weeks to get up and running, and then we will be able to kick off this project once that's all finished. So a little bit of a holding pattern right now, but gives us more time to kind of iron out these kinks and find ways to solve those barriers. But once we have that taken care of, we'll be ready to turn the trigger on and get going. So I see there was
And,
another question.
Yes.
Mhm.
So Jessica, the only if they have well water, if they say they have well, that is when it prompts this whole thing. If they say anything else, done. That's all you need to do is capture it in Spirit. Kyle, I don't know if you're here. Do you know if there's an address change in Spirit, will this mandatory field pop up again for capturing the type of water they have?
No, it will only be required during a new certification. Yep, it's the same with like voter registration. It doesn't recognize a new address.
We do plan to have brochures in the offices that just kind of ask, are you on well water, or what's your well water quality like? So it can always be an option, I think, for people to see that. And I don't know if they can initiate the conversation with you all and ask for participation in this project. But we do have the brochures and the flyers that will be in the offices physically. So maybe if they move and get on a new well and they see the brochure, they could opt into this if that's an option.
Kyle, another question for you for the Spirit end of things. Does this carry over between household members in a family, or will this information need to be entered this once for each participant during the cert?
It's a great question. It's likely going to be for every person, but I have not tested it with a multi-person household, so I can test it and let you know.
No, what about changes for authorized reps?
No, nothing like that. It's just certification based. Yeah.
I know that we said, Aaron, just for certifications, but would it be okay, like if somebody did have an address change and it came up that it was well water, like could we give it to that person even though it wasn't in a cert period?
I think that was just our way of keeping
anything.
track of things. But I think as long as we, fill out the form that's included in the packet so we can link up that kit was given to so-and-so, I don't see any reason why not.
Okay.
And just, tracking it in Spirit so we can pull that data. Because we also want to make sure that we know how many kits were handed out and how many didn't come back so that we can, again, kind of assess that response rate. If there's like 50 kits just hanging out in people's houses, that means that we're doing something wrong and people aren't able to, fully participate in the project, and we want to know that.
So another important portion of this for the Spirit end and data collection, which will not prompt you and will not force you to do it, is making sure that in materials given, if you provided a well water testing kit, and I'm not sure if we entered in the exact language yet, but just in materials given, putting in a well water test kit, or if they didn't want the kit itself, but they wanted the information, you could provide the referral in the referrals tab. So those two pieces will be really important to capture in those two sections of Spirit if they do have well water and they do want to proceed with the testing kit.
I know that one thing that we had talked about, knowing that these, bigger boxes with the ice packs and the time are going to be harder. I think at one point we had talked about just kind of piloting 2 different approaches of this, kind of time sensitive, cold sensitive one, and just kind of an easy, you can put it in your own mailbox. Would that be helpful? What are people's thoughts on kind of having 2 different groups doing 2 different things and seeing how people handle them?
I just had a thought when we were just talking about all this. Public health nurses and Maine families go into folks' homes. They might be a good partner, because if they're going into the homes, they can actually help folks do the well water testing right then and there, and then they could take the test kit and drop it off in the mail. That would be a great partner to have for the completion of this test kit.
Yeah,
return.
You're spot on. We had a similar thought and just were hoping to try, this version and see how far we get, and then find out if a next level referral to public health nursing, and if they're on board, would be helpful. So I think that is probably a direction we will have to kind of move and collaborate with them. Well, I'll put my email in the chat. If people think of other barriers or solutions to barriers or questions about anything related to this project, shoot me an email. We really are just trying to make this as easy but also comprehensive for the main WIC clients as possible.
Thanks so much, Erin.
Yeah,
and
always a joy.
Yeah, so we just, so you guys know, I had a reminder to activate everything in Spirit today, but we're going to be delaying that. So again, this was just kind of a touch base. So we will, when things go live, we will have more details and handouts and the actual kits being sent to you. And so this is just another touch base. So any other last minute questions while we still have Erin? Okay, perfect.
Well, have a good
Thanks,
rest
Erin.
of your day, everyone. Bye.
You too. Bye. So again, it's not a mandatory thing for people to take. They don't have to take the testing kits or anything. So it's just another service for us to be able to provide to our participants and hopefully save some money, because $120 is a lot of money for anybody. So let's see. So do you guys want to take a quick 5-minute break, or do you just want to power through the last 2 things? I think the last 2 things will only take 5 minutes.
Sam, I do have a question. Are we moving on from the well water testing?
Yes, unless you have a question about it?
I do. At the last meeting, you and the presenter had talked about how we'd be following up, and there was discussion about a script and questions we would ask, and then a 3-week follow-up with an appointment in Spirit. Is that no longer part of this rollout, or is that something that we're going to talk about at another time?
We're going to talk about that. The new information that came up was the requirements for mailing times and temperatures and stuff. That was all new. So we were we need to make sure that we communicate this information. So we will talk about the follow-up at the next appointment. And I'm going to make a note to reach back out to Erin with that one. Power through. Okay. Any other questions about well water? Okay. Okay, so we're just going to go right through these. So the next thing that I wanted to share with you, and I will forward this email to you, but I was kind of relieved because FNS there was this whole thing with capturing information about substance use and referrals and nutrition education and and they had these really strict requirements before, and come to find out the requirements are not as strict as we were thinking that it was going to be. So everybody's doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing, but I just wanted to share the information with you, and I'll forward the email after this. But here's the email. So basically, here's the important thing to know. Highlight it for you. There you go. Updated guidance is related to how substance use information is provided. The state can choose how they provide this information, knowing that only substance use information and referrals as needed are required. Distribution of educational materials is optional as a reinforcement of such information and/or referrals. Providing information can be a verbal or a conversation alone, no handouts required, regarding the dangers of drugs and substance use and referrals if appropriate. This meets the requirements for education. Providing educational materials or handouts, if accompanied with further education and discussion, would be acceptable for meeting this requirement. So basically, everything that you guys are doing is perfect. I know that each one of you has a local agency resource material, and just having that conversation with that person, the conversation enough is fine, and providing them that information with 211 or the or with the resources in your area is appropriate. So I just wanted to let you know, because this was something that had come up in conversations in the past, that that this is the guidance from FNS, and I will forward this along to you all after this meeting. Any questions on this one?
Yeah, this is Anna. I mean, it's interesting that FNS wants to do this, and that's fine, whatever. That looks pretty, like you said, it's totally what we're doing. But I would question, or I would push them to update the risk codes, because the risk codes are federal, right? That's not state.
Correct. Yeah, it's federal.
So the risk code here is still too broad for this topic. And, for years, we've wished that we actually had 3 different risk codes within this risk code category, because we're really talking about like marijuana and opioids and alcohol all in the same category as substance, when we would consider them, or when we would consider the referrals we would give for those 3 things would all be very different, depending where we are and where the family's at. So anyway, I would just just keep that in your brain, Sam, and for the state staff as you're in these FNS meetings. And if you want to dig into that a little bit, we could talk about it separately, or if any other WIC directors have some insight there. But yeah, because that's one risk code, which is escaping my brain because I'm talking about it. But anybody who has that on the tip of their tongue can chime in. There's a separate risk code for infants who have exposure, but I'm talking about the pregnant person and the postpartum person. It's only one risk code. So anyway,
Great.
Keep that in mind. That's all.
Great. Thank you.
I was thinking about this the other day too, because we were talking with the mom folks, and how we're not able to pull out, I can't run a risk code report that would identify the people who have self-declared that they have opioid use disorder, or or are in a MAT program. And it would be really awesome if we could, so that, or if we could text those people, if there was a way to check in with just those people, because their treatment model is going to be very different than someone who reported that they've had a couple drinks. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
really different.
Yeah. Great. Any other questions or comments on this? And I just forwarded that email to you all, so you have it in writing in case you want it. And then the last one that had come in, the last agenda topic that was sent to me was regarding military pay. And somebody sent that, whoever was there a specific question as it you know, about military pay, or was there like a specific thing that you were looking for about like what's approved, or what is, can you just give me some more detail about it?
Yeah, sure. It's Brenda. So I work with the military families in Kittery, and they'll bring me the LES, and on the policies it says to include base pay, BAS, and FSA, with some other items. So we always deduct the housing, which is the BAH, and I include the BAS. Well, many families have come to me in the last, I don't know, maybe year or so, and said that their BAS, which is their food allowance, is not money given to them. It's an allowance that they can use to eat on base. So I sent 2 requests to the state just because I felt like if I said they were over income using their BAS, that they would file a grievance. And they both times was said to, if they weren't getting it as money, to not count it. So I just feel like if it's in the policy and we're, for most families, counting it, and then for those few families not counting it, I feel like that needs to be looked at, because I've probably denied some families based on using their BAS.
I'm looking at, oh, there's a bunch of stuff going on in the chat. Oh. Okay, so I'm looking at a previous email. Okay, so I'm looking at what we have. So the military pay thing is super confusing for everybody. And Kyle and I have spent literally hours looking into these types of questions for military pay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to escalate this to FNS and try to get more clarification, and, you know, let them know that there could be a grievance filed because of this. So thank you for the clarification. Fire pay, snap, all other.
I was just looking at what food stamps does to try to see like what the rules are with them.
I did look it up and I can't even recall what I found actually.
Yeah, this one's sticky. So let me get more information from FNS. And Tessa, before she leaves, she loves these policy type questions. So I will send this over to her sooner rather than later so that we can get a definitive answer and then maybe update our policy if necessary.
Okay, that would be.
So thank you. Yeah. Does anybody else have any other agenda items or topics, or any insight onto military pay that we may not know? Otherwise, I can let you guys get out of here early and get back to clinic. Awesome. So we do have the annual conference on October 14th. Where we'll have Karen Dehe come and do a presentation for us on VINA, which we're excited about. And we will also have a presenter come from Nursing Naturals, and she'll do a session on how to fit a nursing bra and how to size a nursing bra for participants. So we're really excited about that. So if there are no other questions, comments, anything like that, I can let you guys go. And Anna, I am going to be reaching out to you for assistance with CEUs once we meet with Karen and get the final agenda
Yeah,
approved.
I figured. All right, cool.
Thank you. All right. So if anybody has anything else, otherwise, it was great to see you all, and thank you for joining. And send any questions that you guys might have. We'll get you the notes out as soon as possible.
Bye.
See ya.